In financial remedy proceedings, parties fight to preserve their share of the marital assets. However, adversarial litigation actively consumes the wealth they intend to preserve. As proceedings continue, legal fees compound, carving significant portions out of the remaining estate. In many cases, reaching a final trial, the cost of the fight can exceed the total value of the assets. The family court addresses this cycle through the family procedure rules. The court is bound by an overriding objective to deal with cases justly, specifically by saving expense. The court's mandate requires it to force hostile parties into structured negotiation, aiming to break the deadlock before they reach the financial ruin of a final trial. The procedural timeline for financial remedies under the family procedure rules is built around three distinct nodes. The first dispute appointment, or FDA, focuses on administrative evidence gathering, ensuring all necessary financial disclosures and property valuations are collected. At the timeline's far end is the final hearing, a last resort where a judge evaluates formal evidence and imposes a binding order. The most critical stage sits in the center, the financial dispute resolution appointment, or FDR. The FDR is a mandatory, judge-led negotiation phase placed between initial evidence gathering and the trial. Its primary structural function is to divert the case away from the compounding costs of the final hearing by forcing parties to evaluate their positions early. The FDR functions as a strictly regulated environment for compromise. The court hears no formal evidence and decides no facts. Exactly 7 days before the hearing date, the court demands detailed documentation to ensure the session is productive. This deadline forces both sides to provide a comprehensive view of their positions to the court. Under Rule 9.173 of the FPR, the applicant must file a record of all prior settlement offers, proposals, and the corresponding responses. This requirement provides the judge with a documented history of the negotiation before the parties arrive. The parties must also prepare a trial bundle in accordance with Practice Direction 27A. This bundle includes all relevant financial disclosures, including Form E statements, the ES1 case summary, and the ES2 joint schedule of assets and liabilities. Practice Direction 9A requires legal representatives to arrive with an intimate knowledge of these documents to facilitate a settlement. These pre-filing rules prevent parties from using the FDR as a procedural formality. They are forced to crystallize their positions and cost out their proposals in advance. This courtroom boundary represents the absolute privilege of without prejudice negotiation. Inside this protected space, nothing said or offered by either party can be used against them in subsequent court proceedings. This protection allows adversarial parties to move past trial positions they might otherwise maintain to avoid appearing weak. Privilege encourages candid concessions, as parties know these compromises cannot be used as evidence if the case proceeds. Inside this environment, the court imposes a statutory duty on both parties. Under Rule 9.176, parties must use their best endeavors to reach an agreement and give serious consideration to every proposal. The judge functions as an active mediator, providing an early neutral evaluation of the case. After reviewing the bundle, the judge often provides an indication of the financial order they would likely make at a final trial. This judicial evaluation often breaks deadlocks and recalibrates expectations held by clients and their lawyers. Combining the safety of absolute privilege with a judicial reality check makes attempting a settlement more strategically sound than maintaining a stalemate. If the negotiation fails, the procedural structure must account for the fact that the judge has heard confidential compromises. The family procedure rules address this through Rule 9.172. The judge who facilitates the FDR is barred from any further involvement in the case. The only exceptions are approving a consent order if the parties agree, or providing administrative directions to move the case to trial. Permanent recusal secures the privilege rule by removing the possibility of the judge using a party's concessions against them at trial. If the parties reach an agreement at the FDR, they move toward formalizing the settlement. The immediate step is to draft a detailed heads of agreement before the parties leave the court. This document captures the essential points of the settlement. It is signed by the parties and presented to the judge for approval. Once the judge approves these terms, it is known as a Rose Order, following the 2002 decision in Rose v. Rose. A Rose Order establishes a formal legal obligation. After judicial approval, the parties cannot withdraw from the agreement simply because they changed their minds. The Rose Order converts a courtroom negotiation into a binding reality, leading to the drafting of the final consent order. If no agreement is reached, the case moves into a contested phase with strict procedural consequences. The court executes a purge mechanism under Rule 9.173. All written offers and responses filed for the hearing must be returned to the parties and expunged from the court file. The court then issues directions for a final contested hearing. However, Rule 9.27a1 introduces a final post-FDR requirement. Parties must file and serve open proposals for settlement, typically within 21 days of the failed FDR. Crucially, NEJA open proposals, they strip away the without prejudice protection, allowing the trial judge to review these offers when deciding how to allocate accrued legal costs. By mastering Part 9 of the Family Procedure Rules, practitioners can leverage the FDR to secure binding settlements or strategically protect their clients from the financial damage of a final hearing.